So, developer-driven modernism, the architecture of Roland Wilson. We've got a few folks that are more than familiar with Roland. This is not a comprehensive program. This is more of a study, and that's exactly what we'll be doing tonight, is studying, because we don't know a lot about the person. We know mostly about what the work was. We know a lot of, we can make deductions about maybe what it means, to Denver architecturally, blah, blah, blah. This is the guy. The majority of my work is apartment design. That's really what I do. That's what I get jazzed about, getting people, doing work for folks that maybe can't afford an architect themselves. Okay. Poetic nature to that, right? Something that kind of, you're providing quality design to the masses. When I came here, I saw a lot of buildings like this and started to get rather excited about that. And we heard that even in the introduction tonight about the excitement about all of these crazy modernist buildings. This is just one of them. And as an outsider looking at this, I didn't see this in cities like Pittsburgh. I didn't see this in cities throughout the Midwest. Until I came here, and then I started to notice them everywhere. They're all across Denver, and they all generally look about the same. They have a similar language, this large balcony that was already stated in this room multiple times tonight. They're very recognizable, similar unit plans. In most cases, they're exactly the same unit plans. We can see this narrow slot window for a bedroom, and we can imagine that a living space is off of that balcony. Again, the same things. It's the same kit of parts. And they're everywhere. Oftentimes, they'll take different shapes based on their lot. Sometimes they don't. These particular ones aren't even here at all. These are in Iowa. This one here is in El Paso, Fairmount Apartments, El Paso's first high-rise apartment project. It'll be under the construction in the near future at Stanton Street, blah, blah, blah. The 10-story building will cost approximately $2 million. There it is again, the Fairmont. These buildings started to pop up all over the place. They're not just in Denver, they're really across the country. And if you look at this drawing here that was published, it looks awful similar to La Fontana. That's Denver's second condo project that was ever built in the state, 1964. It's a really kind of a neat project. And you can see it's an exact duplicate of a project that was also built in 64 in El Paso. And when you go inside of these are just apartments, right? This is a heck of a space. I mean, there's big ideas in here. Floor to ceiling glass, all the way up to the lid. We can see the roof plane going out. It's beautiful. This is high modernism. This is a big idea and a package for regular people. This got me excited. When you study it, though, there's a lot of efficiencies in these designs. Notice these walls of glass are really just standard 5-foot sliding glass doors. There's only one that's an oversized. And they're actually 6'8" sliding glass doors as well. They're standard size sliders, but they're slid up against the ceiling. So we can reduce the cost. This isn't really floor to ceiling glass. It's just an efficient use of a standard off-the-shelf sliding glass door. Many of these projects have sort of these expressive entries that happen, fun balconied, rails and dividers that give personality to these rather simplistic and elegant, really beautiful buildings.
Josh, excuse me. Those sliding glass doors seem to be sitting on top of convectors.
They do. So what he'll...
How do you get outside? Is the slab outside at the same height as the top of the convector?
In some cases, just step over it in the bedrooms.
What?
And he only does one slider in the whole unit that's 8 foot. And sometimes he'll even run the convector which is a wall mount, not a freestander,
Yeah.
in front of the fixed paneling slider. So it's pretty interesting because it gave him the ability to run hot water baseboard heat all around these units.
So do we want to talk about what happened during the deep freeze this year? A couple of the buildings that.
What's interesting though about these, and this is La Fontana again, in most of the projects, I noticed that there was a real blurring of indoor and outdoor conditions. And even in the smallest ones, there might be a very small amenity space with gardens that tend to pass through glass walls. This turns into a planter on the other side of this wall. And in many times, integral art, like here. In almost all of the buildings, there is some art piece that's part of the theming, that's part of the brand in some way, that's utilized as an icon for the project. I can imagine that if there was a t-shirt made of this, it's going to be a sharp competition between showing the pattern for the breeze block and the pattern on these doors. I think though, you can imagine this might be the one that would win out. If I had a slide that showed this a little bit closer, they're actually a series of tiki gods stacked on top of each other. Cedar Rapids Gazette. Here's another one. They're all over the place. We see them in many different configurations, and they really are coagulated here in Colorado. Now, why? Because Roland was based in Colorado, and this is where it started. The projects are all very similar, very much the same kit of parts. Many times in sort of pastoral settings, the further out of the city that they get, and create this sort of Corbusian tower and park. What do most of these have in common that we saw? They all have this, the precast double T, and this is the original one, 4 foot by 14 inches. The precast double T was invented in Denver. And I believe it became national. It was nationally available by 1958.
Rocky Mountain Precast.
Rocky Mountain Precast. So 1958. Now this is a red letter date for Roland Wilson and a lot of projects. There's the man. That's the other thing this has all in common. All of these projects are built and designed by this guy. And that's right, built. Like I said, most of them are really, most of these projects are in Denver, but they're all across the state. And if you really want to explore these at length, you can see almost every one of the prototypes or products that he did around Cheeseman Park, just a few blocks. Gene Sternberg, and this building was actually brought up tonight. So that's Desi. That's Gene Sternberg's Desi. So this is a program about Roland. Why am I talking about Gene Sternberg? Well, if I read Roland's obituary, Roland Wilson passed away in 2009. Roland Wilson was born in Denver, August 1st, 1926. Graduated from East High School, and he earned his architecture degree at the University of Denver. So we know, many of us in this room know about Gene Sternberg. Gene is really one of the master moderns in Colorado. This guy had big ideas and built incredible work all over the place. Homes, hospitals, you name it. He fought tooth and nail for every job he ever got. And they were full of big ideas. This guy was lured here to Colorado to teach. That's how he got started. And he brought with him, after the war, these big ideas. Ideas about efficiency, honesty. I mean, this was real modernism coming straight from Europe. And he was also a practicing architect at the same time. Now, the program that he taught at didn't end up lasting very long. It was ultimately canceled. A lot of the students had to finish up elsewhere. But Roland was one of the ones that did actually get a degree. So we've got to imagine there's somebody here that's coming from war-torn Europe, that's rebuilding war-torn Europe, coming and talking to these impressionable young men and saying, you know, he's telling them these big ideas. They're working all night in the studio and stuff. And this passionate kind of stuff, it's got to be absorbed by Roland. And I think that his work says that it was absorbed by him. Of course, the program was rather good. Frank Lloyd Wright wasn't known for going to work or going to speak at other schools, but he did come to Sternberg's program twice. And that's Sternberg over there with a few of the students. So Gene's sort of this father that spreads a lot of information to a lot of young folks in Denver. This woman enters the picture. Ginny and Roland would end up getting married. They met at church in 1958 and they got married within the year. Now, Ginny just passed away last year, sadly. They dated and then married. She married the love of her life, Roland Wilson, at Trinity Methodist Church, the 18th of January, 1958. The same year the tea came out. Ginny's rather interesting. This is a really poor photograph of her, but it's the only one that I have of the period. And that was something that was in one of the Colorado newspapers. Ginny was an artist. She was not an architect. And at that time, I believe she was working as a commercial artist. So you've got this architect and the artist. And they end up working together right out of the gate. As soon as they get married, this happens. Now, there's a few years there where Roland must be working for somebody else. I don't know who. But during those years, hatches a scheme where he would, and this is how this first project got built. The first project that he starts his office for. It's a kidney-shaped swimming pool on the corner of 13th Avenue and Adams Street. And the three-story apartment angled around it has been completed. The project is in one of Denver's older neighborhoods. It brings a new type of casual living for the 18 tenants who moved in before the finishing touches were added to the apartments. The apartment emphasizes a club-like atmosphere. It was designed and built by architect Roland Wilson and a Continental Airlines pilot, George Cram. A resident of Palos Verdes, California, the 20 by 40 foot swimming pool in front of the main entrance is surrounded by a 5-foot masonry wall. There is a large basement recreation area with a lounge, bar, club room, and a game room for billiards and ping pong. This really is a casual living sort of club atmosphere. Some of the apartments have fireplaces, and most have 800 square feet of living space with 2 bedrooms. That's a decent unit. Each floor has one larger unit at 1,200 square feet. That's where it gets started. What he does is it finds a piece of ground, will interest somebody with money in the ground. Roland and Ginny design the building, come up with a theme for the building. That's Ginny's real job. What are the amenities that might entice somebody? In 1958, the majority of multifamily housing did not have amenities. Most of it didn't. It was a big brick box with holes poked in the front and the sides of it, and there might be a fancy brick on the front. And that was it. And a 10-foot setback or something off of the street. That's it. This all of a sudden is, wow, are you kidding me? I get to join basically a club around this swimming pool. There's an attitude to this that's rather interesting. So, Roland and Ginny, after they find an investor that's interested in this project, they may end up being the majority investor. I don't think they were in this particular case. They design the building, and then waive the fee. So there's no architectural fee, and his payment ultimately is a percentage ownership in the project. That's how this starts. This particular one, along with the percentage ownership, Roland and Ginny even managed this project for the next 2 years and lived in one of the 1,200 square foot units. They understood what was good about the project, what was bad about the project, and then decided to do another one. This is the format that they would follow essentially for the rest of their lives. This, it's the next one, the Yale Lanai. Notice it's the same building, but now there's 2 of them. And it's a larger courtyard. The buildings get even bigger. This is in 1963. Yeah, finished approximately 1963. Club 14, another one of these ones that's a theme a lot. It's exclusive. You can join this club, and there's one of the buildings. Of course, it's the same design.
Oh, is that a glass elevator?
It's a completely open elevator. What an experience to go up this elevator.
Except for when it's blizzarding or raining.
Yeah.
But you're going to have the same problem with the open corridors, right? So the open corridors, and especially as the buildings continue to get taller, of course, you'd have more of an issue. It's literally the same building, now it's elevated. It has the same club kit of parts. You've got the kidney bean shaped swimming pool. And today, when we look at this, we see this looking, it's like a motel or something, these outdoor hallways. But at the time, this was rather different and built absolutely with a brand new structural kit of parts, the precast double T. See all the ears of the T's sticking out here? We can see all the precast parts that he's utilizing, including precast balcony rails. The stair and elevator core here are built out of block. But what a neat building. I imagine those 1,200 square foot units over here in the 2 corners. We can see the clay tile, the flue tile sticking out of the roof. So those probably both have fireplaces in them. And notice this interesting little detail. These ganged flower pots that accent the corners at all the 2 beds. I think that's neat. Back up a little bit here. Is this a fair comparison? Probably not. But, and this is Conan. This is one of the case study houses, 22. Incredible modern architecture, right? These big soaring pieces of glass. I get this wonderful view, and it's all open and modern. You get a similar experience in an apartment like this. It's done on a cost-effective, in a cost-effective way, and a more pedestrian scale. It's modern architecture for regular people. It's making this kind of stuff accessible for the average person. The buildings continue to get taller. He gets more excitement about this. It's a project. It's a kit of parts that's really working. And it's going up very, very quickly. Again, they continue to be around these club-like swimming pools. What's the experience of that balcony that we saw? The windswept balcony. Hopefully it's away from the wind. It's this. These windows have since been replaced. They were originally full-height sliding glass doors, if this particular building is like most of his. You can see in this case, the elevator is enclosed. The stair is beyond it, right? That's open, part of the experience. But you get these outdoor hallways with big sliders. You start to get to know your neighbor, right? There's a privacy issue, maybe, if you choose to make it an issue. But there's an efficiency to this as well. Those fireplaces that he talked about, even in 58, in the first few projects, here's one of them. This isn't just a cheesy, generic fireplace. There's something to it. It's off the rack, right? This isn't anything custom. But there's a special quality to this. These are the units. These are at least the early ones. This is a typical one bed, one bath for Roland. You can see a very clearly defined public and private space in this floating little kitchen in the corner. In that slide we saw of this hallway, right? We can see what that's like actually in plan. This is a large slider off of the dining area. Look at the bedroom. 11 by 13, that's a big bedroom. Look at the amount of closet space in here. That's a 12-foot closet. You can see where these windows occur, those big slot windows that we saw, the floor-to-ceiling windows. They happen in the corners of the bedrooms. What happens when you push a window in the corner of anything? All of a sudden, the corner gets wet. It's not a wall with a hole in it. It's a wall that we can see past. The bedrooms feel bigger. They're lit. Interesting. Other things. Look at the hallway that goes back to the bedroom. Sternberg talking about utilizing every square inch of the building's hallway should be utilized. These great audio recordings of him talking near the end of his life about utilizing hallways and things like that. Where's the sink? The sink is pulled out of the bathroom and it's floating out in the hallway. It's a key element in many of his floor plans. I've got to imagine this is through experience, understanding what it might be like to live with another person in a one-bedroom apartment. But one person is in the bathroom, the other person can still be getting ready out here, and utilizing the hallway as a vanity. A one bed, one bath. Now this is a different configuration to allow for a different, maybe this is an inside corner or whatever it is. 11 by 12 bedrooms. Right? There's that window again. Look at the amount of storage in this one bedroom. That's a ton of storage. Again, the laboratory. Now, pulled out into the hallway, but there's still one in the bathroom. So two people can get ready at the same time, utilizing that hall. 12 by 23 foot living area. And of course, we've got these big sliders that go out into the exterior hallway. But you also have a balcony off your kitchen. Same cabinets, same run is used in the other units. Here's more, 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, another 2 bed with a 2 bath. Balcony now off of the living and dining area. The fireplace here in the 2 bedrooms that we saw in the other projects from the exterior. The kitchen pushed over here into the corner. And again, the vanity is pulled out of the bathroom. Now a double vanity out here in this hallway space. Something else that's interesting, and just a mark of really good design. Imagine that you might have 2 people living in here. What do the closets do for you? The closets help to isolate the sound between the 2 rooms, utilizing the clothes that'll be hanging. It's just a good design practice. And it's in all of his work. Even closets that isolate sound from the bedroom and the living area. It can be done. I don't know why this door to this bedroom isn't right here. I don't know why it's there. It should have been there to let that bathroom be off of this bedroom, but I'm in this comment. That's the key part. Also, something that's worth noting, notice how narrow the wall poche is drawn here in that floor plan. I had the privilege of remodeling one of his buildings. We didn't know what the wall system was because it was only 2 inches thick. You know what the walls were? They were a proprietary system that's no longer available. But if we look at it here in section, imagine the floor and the ceiling, right? They're out of the precast double piece. So those go up in a heartbeat. 4-foot T. How do we frame walls on the inside? There's a metal channel that's nailed into the top of the T on the floor. Let's actually put it so it aligns with it. On the ceiling, there is another metal channel. In between these two channels, snugly fits without attachment, a vertical stud. The stud is not a normal stud though. The stud is a wire stud. So if we blow this up larger, picture an 1/8 inch, say, piece of wire, 2 1/8 inch pieces of wire, and then a wire going like this. That's the stud. So it's totally open. And sound, when it strikes this side of the wall, has limited material to pass through to the other side of the wall. It gets lost in this cavity. It's a beautiful system. And in the building that we did, it was a condo conversion. And when I saw them ripping the walls out, so we knew what the heck they were. We never thought that it would pass a sound transmission test, that we could keep any of the walls for a condo. It would have had to all come out. We tested it and the walls passed. These little skinny walls passed the sound transmission. So we kept as many as we
What
could.
was on the outside of the studs?
On the outside of the stud was 16-inch pieces of drywall with, I'm thinking they were 1/2 inch. It was pretty thin. And each 16-inch piece of drywall had a clip on it that went around the top and had a little ear that came off of the side. And all the guy had to do was bend the ear over the piece of wire. There was nothing mechanical holding the wall together. There were no screws holding the studs together. There was a piece of metal bent over to hold each one of the pieces of drywall in. And then the next piece sits on top of it with another ear bent around. And then the finishing guy came in and did a full skin coat over the face. That's how the walls were built. That's why the poche is so skinny in here. Every square inch of these units was utilized. It was useful. It was square footage that you weren't wasting on a wall. It was square footage that went back to the tenant. They gained more room. And it was a very efficient and, I'm sure, fast way of putting together walls. And unskilled labor could absolutely do that with a pair of tin snips and a utility knife. It built an entire kit of parts, a system, utilizing a lot of brand new technology like this, the T's, and built thousands of units. In his obituary, it's estimated around 6,000 units. That's a lot of units. It's a lot of lives affected by these projects. And while the buildings, the buildings are very simple, they're there. Oftentimes, when it can be, when it's on a larger, more spread out site, all of a sudden these little pavilions pop up and they turn into the amenities. You can imagine these gone, and this is like some little case study house or something. Now, what really gets him big time attention is this project, the Cheeseman Club. This is here in Denver. The Cheeseman Club building is a 15-story, totally precast, pre-stressed concrete luxury apartment building with a systems approach to its construction. The building was conceived, designed, and constructed with a factory-produced structural shell. It represents a major step towards the development of systems building in this local area. The 95,000 square foot building was erected in 10 weeks at a rate of 1 floor every 3 working days. 10 weeks? It's a 15-story tower. It went up in 10 weeks. The building consists of 8-foot wide double T floors and roof, including over the pole and precast wall panels. In addition, 8-foot wide double Ts are used in a second level 20,000 square foot parking garage. The Ts are 60 feet long. Precast balcony rails and dividers and 33 flights of precast stairs are also used in this structure. The entire building is built in precast. It's a full precast catalog. That's why it's going up in 10 weeks. All load-bearing exterior wall panels were fabricated in one-story units, which we can easily see. We can understand how this building goes together, with a 2-inch striated surface for aesthetics. By standardizing the panel sizes of each symmetrical half of the building, so in plan, the building is perfectly symmetrical. Assembly line methods were permitted in producing the panels, which significantly reduced the cost, obviously. The floor system serves as a diaphragm to distribute loads to the shear walls. Structural connections were designed to allow for vertical and diagonal forces due to gravity, wind, and seismic loads. That's the result. I used to give a tour a few years back around Cheeseman Park of all the old modern high-rises. And this was one of the landmark buildings that we would stop and spend a fair amount of time in. And I had a woman, and by this point I was preaching on myself about modern architecture, all the functional attitude here. And the lady says to me, so if this is all about thoughtfulness, and functional, all this stuff you're talking about, why is that pattern? I said, have you ever looked at a concrete slab? Put your eye down the side. I said, you know what a 15-story building would look like in concrete that is flat as a bone? It's not flat. Concrete's plastic. It weighs stacked at you when you walk by it. This starts to give you, right? It hides the manufacturing process. It's integral. I love the texture of this beautiful building. And of course, the texture goes inside. This is one of those hallways, the exterior hallways that he was doing at 58. Here it is in a high-rise building. All the units face the mountain views. The botanical gardens are actually right here on the other side of this garden wall. This is the entrance, and we can see in this tight urban site, there is still one of those big pavilions that we saw in the more suburban sites. There's the pavilion. There's a little entrance court here that happens, really elegant. And then over here is a walled garden with a wall of glazing that just looks out onto a sculptural tree. Yes, sir.
Did he utilize the roof for anything?
Almost never.
That was smart.
Yeah, I can't think of not a single one that ever had a roof.
Yeah.
I don't know why. It seems like it should have been, but I don't know why. None of them have it.
Where did you find this model? Is that in the building?
It's in the building still. And as a matter of fact, this is the one that they stayed in. So they stopped moving around and maintained what I was told was an entire floor in this building. Now, mind you, he's retaining part ownership in this and waiving the architectural fee. In all of these buildings, that's a lot of money.
And we discovered that to this day, this company still owns.
Yes. And I think Ginny may have actually passed away in Storm last year. Because as I was told, this was the place that she was living.
Did they have children?
They did. And I don't think any of them were local.
They also had a house.
They had a big house. I think this is an interesting detail that he starts to use in several buildings. It is interesting. The precast rail is rather low, and these funky little staples turn into the thing that brings it up to a rail height, which of course in the 60s is still rather low. So it is very open on this passage. You can also see the artist, Ginny's contributions. Some of them are fun. Some of them are a little corny. But they're really pretty fun, all of them. This particular building had a medieval kind of theme to it. The little medieval things and the pokey things and the funky lights and all of that kind of thing.
It makes sense with it being entirely prefab concrete. They're like, here's your modern castle.
Yeah.
You Look at your
This-
modern medieval castle.
You can see there's the striped cover protecting it from, I think the front side. Yeah, because this is the vanguards. So this is the Japanese area right on the other side of the fence. But obviously heavily amenitized. And here we go. We can see more of Roland. It's all of these sliding glass doors that are just ganged together. There's no storefront in any of these buildings. That 20,000 square foot garage is down there. But you'll also notice here, private parking. These are private garages. This is sort of interesting. And this is one of those great glassy corners that we saw from the exterior. And look at the view. My gosh. In this case, he doesn't push. In most of the precast buildings, he doesn't push the sliders up. He keeps the sliders down. But that's the view from that very same apartment. Unbelievable. You can see why they maintained the floor in this building. Those funny little slot windows that tend to be in the bedrooms. Here's one here in the dining area, that same unit. Here's another Roland feature in the more upscale buildings is this ventilation system, which is sort of nice. And you'll notice that most of the units continue to have an accent wall. In the very, very basic ones, it might actually just be stacked CMU as a party wall between units. In this one, it's a paneled board and batten wall. A lot of his buildings, a lot of his units will have flexibility as part of the plan, and this one isn't an exception. You can see that wall actually opens up. It's a piece of 3/4 plywood, and it's a door, which allows that second bedroom to be flexible as an office or some sort of other public thing. But it closes off, and you get that. Other things, they're living in these units, right? You're crafting what works and what doesn't. Here, I mean, this is totally from living in your product. Understanding that, gee, it might be nice to have a pass-through from this closet into the utility space. Interesting. Many of his higher-end units will have a separate wet bar from the kitchen. It's a feature. These shutter doors on his closets, and we're talking about a really large walk-in closet. This is in the 60s. In an apartment, there's the accent fireplace here, this time in recycled brick. We can see those floor-to-ceiling windows. And my God, the experience again is just nuts. And you can see the pieces and the parts of the precast and how it all fits together. No hiding it. Sometimes these balconies will be so deep because the depth of the T allows so much span, it's free. Let's stick it out as far as we can. And sometimes the balconies will actually be square. They're as deep as they are wide. The Somerset Apartments is a really nice example of that. And because of the nature of most of his buildings having these precast rails, it's like the fact that you're in a very tall building. It feels safe. You can walk up to this. It feels safe. It feels strong. You don't feel like, oh my God, I don't want to go out on that. Oh boy. I think it's also interesting that in this particular slide, we are in a Roland building. We can see a Roland building there. That's a Roland building. That's a Roland building. And so is that one. And I bet there's other low ones that we can't see in the trees. Here's a good example, the Da Vinci. This is down at Mexico and Colorado Boulevard. So Colorado Boulevard would be right over here. This shows a series of his towers. These were all at different price points. So some of them were a little the more deluxe kitchens. Some of them had different features, different finishes, different unit mixes. You can see all the buildings are not exactly the same, but they utilize the same kit of parts. And look at these towers in this beautiful park-like setting.
Feels like Roland does Corbusier.
Exactly.
Are you familiar with the work of Anderson and Williams?
Yes,
Park right here.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And their buildings on Evans and on Hampton. And they're just like that.
Set in.
Are you sure those are Roland Wilson buildings?
These ones are long. Yes,
They are.
yes. Swimming pools over here, tennis courts, a pretty neat community.
What is, I was trying to, what is in front of, is that a lower part of the building that's in front of the car?
Yes,
Okay,
and I don't know what's in it. But it's probably one of those big amenity things that they did,
I just need to make-
probably. This is interesting because there's this campus of buildings here. He also did this one, and he also did this one. And those are older than these ones. This is the groundbreaking ceremony for the Da Vinci. In 1966, that's Roland over there, and that's one of his investors. Imagine probably many of his investors here. And we can see this building back behind them. There it is, architect's sketch of new Aspen Arms apartment complex in southeast Denver. We'll notice it's different about this one. No key. This is a good one.
That's one
Looks
number
like a
long
steel
right
building.
now.
It's in fine condition. I've never walked any of these units. I don't know what they are, but this is a Roland Wilson building.
I've seen that building.
Another one. This is 1200 Vine. It's that same kit of parts. These are poured in place concrete slabs. And the sliding glass doors are lifted the whole way up to the underside of the slab. And the thin tube radiators run around the perimeter. Another one. Roland Wilson of Denver is architect on the
Cadillac Park.
That's right next to you.
Yeah. Doesn't
And
look like that.
That poor building.
this is all structured parking underneath the entire building. Or actually, no, it's not underneath the entire building because it would have changed the grid, the structural grid. It's
Something
just
outdoor.
under the outside. And you can see, this is growing out too.
So the pool is there and that little awning
Is that
is
still up?
there, yeah. And it looks like it's designed to go, that you should be able to go upstairs, but nobody does, and there's grass growing on it.
Yeah, see that guy
Yeah.
standing up there?
And it does have this cool, almost like a hairpin looking detail where the railing is kind of bent, but in like a very designed styled way.
And then where they're standing in that area now is now a parking
Yeah,
lot.
that's a parking lot.
So they got rid of the putting green.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is like right behind my listing that I have right now, so I stir up the water.
Were these trees ever planted over there?
They're not there now. My buildings are now, the other new, Irving buildings there.
But there we go. We see some more of this. It's called the Cadillac. That's fancy stuff now. And that's it today. And there's Breeze building right next to it, the big cruise ship. And that is not a Roland Wilson building.
It's not, it's a Tom Heights building.
There we
I
go.
was just looking at the drawings.
But even if you remember back to the La Fontana and the others that we even that we saw in other parts of the country, you can recognize that same sliding glass door, the same gridded hyphen, and then we see the slider for the bedroom.
But I think it's wild about some of his buildings that have been condoed out is though so many of them, people will like frame out the outdoor patio area and make it like these weird, like so many of them they do it. And it's, some like look okay and
Yeah.
some look terrible.
Well, and it's funny because I feel like on most buildings, you see it where clearly it was done after the building was
Yours
completed.
was interesting.
Mine wasn't. Mine was integral. It was like a package you could buy on, which is cool. because at least it feels a little less slapped on. People have modified them since, but it's just interesting to see how each building kind of has handled that over time.
And the units in most of his buildings that might be the less desirable ones in the ground level. I mean, you live in a high-rise building, he wants the ground level. He gives them a garden space. So as an extended, there is a benefit to those lower levels.
So where does this one fall in the timeline of the double T's? Since
It's at the same time. They're all being done at the same time. The T's are the ones that he maintains the most amount of ownership. The ones that don't seem to be the T's aren't in his portfolio very long.
Do we know why?
I am betting that he probably worked or acted as an architect primarily on these buildings. I'm betting the other ones because he had more of a say, or 100% a say. He was able to do what made sense for him. This building didn't go up in 10 years. But for Roland, it really is about the T's.
Yeah, I think, like those buildings that were built in other states, I think he was just the architect on that. I don't think he was an investor.
And those are all this, they're all this part. There's another example. That's the same unit in that building. I don't have any proof that that's his, but I'm sure it probably is. That's one of his. This is one of the versions of the T's that he experiments with. There's not many of these built, but the T's are used as the end plan.
Not very many in Egypt.
How many that,
There are plenty of them.
yeah, they're,
Going behind my house.
Yeah.
of course.
Well, and more industrial use.
The tilt up.
I see it
You know,
used.
office buildings.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like two on Littleton Boulevard, there's a double T.
Question on this, I was going to ask you. Are most of these buildings in good shape? I see the stains outside. Are they kept up or not?
Well, I would say they're 50, 60 years old. They have all reached that point that they need serious work. All of them. And a lot of condo buildings right now specifically are in a really bad spot because they have a lot of deferred maintenance or big maintenance that's finally coming up after 60 years. They have to now replace mechanical systems. Oh my God.
Or the cultivators and,
Or the
So are these being
concrete
torn down
stands.
somewhere?
No, you couldn't afford to tear this thing down. It would be easier to let this thing sit abandoned and rot. I mean, you couldn't tear this building down.
I'd be curious if the ones that have stayed apartments have fared better than the condo buildings.
Well, there's one down the street from this building, actually. It's on 12th and York. And Cornerstone Apartments now manages it. I don't know who bought it, but they, top to bottom, them and whoever the owner of the building is, top to bottom, did a full renovation of it. And it has double T patios.
Does it?
I can't remember what it's called. I can picture the signia of the sign, but I can't
It
remember.
used to be the Corsican. I used to live there.
Maybe, yeah.
I used to live there. I mean, the biggest challenges I think that structure faced was just the sort of old style shoebox elevators are clearly very hard to get parts for, which caused a lot of problems. The HVAC system in the building was based on, I believe it's some kind of pneumatic system where they've got cold water in winter, hot water in the summer,
they got
lower based interchange system, which is kind of the end of its life. Yeah, it's tough. I mean, there were often, one of the interesting corners that Roland cut, or someone cut, was that when they were building these, at least the structure that I lived in, they declined to provide water shutoffs on a per fixture basis in the building. So every time they needed to replace a sink or a dishwasher or anything,
Well,
they had to shut off all the water in the building.
that's my building too.
Yeah.
I also left, so this isn't just old buildings, so my good friend lives in a building that was built about 12 years ago, and they put in shut-offs, but they have found that if you don't shut off both the apartment above and below, it causes issues. So I can tell you that it's not just an old building problem.
So the
It's a
T's,
lot of
the T's are really the thing, right? And we see them even outside of the Denver, well, this is Leedsdale, right? This is Candlelight. A beautiful building down south.
Is that Aurora or Denver?
Huh?
Aurora or Denver? Still Denver. So it's right on the edge.
It's, this is an interesting one for Roland because we can see it's all precast. Right? It's all precast. It's his system. But the windows don't go the whole way down in this case. They don't go the whole way up. All of his balconies here have sliders installed. Those are all sliding glass doors, 12-foot sliders. On the inside of that space, this is an interior space. On the inside of that space is a rail. So it feels like the whole end of your living room is this massive balcony. There's another one down on 285. That's the same parts,
Not the one
except
on
it's
Girard.
faced in brick.
There's like one off Gerard that I feel like looks almost exactly like that.
So this is Candlewick. Again, the big buildings, right? Roland doing Corbusier in a beautiful park setting with rolling natural hills, all these wonderful paths to explore and little follies out in it. And then, of course, a tennis court and a massive clubhouse. A really neat project. The first time I ever went there, I actually was curious about what a unit felt like. And I have this picture of maybe what it was like there. When I pulled up, I had to get the gate code because it was gated from it. And I went in, I parked my car, and I got out, and a guy came pulling up in a 63 Jag XKE. And I thought, wow, this is the Polo Club, another role, which Mr. Gass gets to look at every day.
Not anymore.
Well, yeah, one level.
The trees all green.
It's the same sort of thing, except instead of the external hallways being turned towards the outside, they're turned towards the inside, and it has glass over the lid. And down here is sort of a neat gardenscape with a pond and things like that. I don't have a
In an atrium.
In a massive atrium. Now, we couldn't build this today.
No.
Right? The fire code wouldn't permit it. And as a matter of fact, there was a fire in here in the 80s. One of the units caught on fire and it did an extensive amount of
I
damage.
have to imagine they've added a deluge system.
I would think so, yeah. But a really big and neat building. Office buildings. I'm looking at apartments here. What the hell does Roland have any business doing office buildings? With a layout unusual. An office building so replete with not until now features its developers call it a model for the future, has opened quietly at 1776 South Jackson Street, with all 11 floors filled with contented tenants. It's the Executive Club, and there it is. It's just another Roland Wilson apartment being leased
Marketed for offices.
Executive
Valley
House. Of course, the larger ones have a fireplace in the corner, right? Because they're really 2-bedroom units.
Just don't have the walls.
They don't have the walls. And because he's got T's, none of the interior walls are supported. So you can blow the whole thing out. So it's interesting because several years ago, we had a client that was interested in buying this particular one. This is at Colorado Boulevard and I-25 at the Hook. There's two of them. They're sisters. They're the same building. They were interested in buying this. And we went out. We didn't do as-built, but we went out and looked at it. And we asked the folks, do you have any drawings for this? And they did. And they rolled out a set of drawings, and I wish that I would have taken them with me and ran prints of them. Because there was a second phase. And the second phase showed all the apartments. The building was designed to eventually, if it made sense, convert to apartments. And as a matter of fact, it had all the plumbing stacks installed. Of course, we couldn't use it. It didn't make sense to convert it to apartments finally after all these years, because it didn't meet accessibility in any way. The bathroom doors were all 24 inches, none of it laid out for contemporary fixtures. It would have cost too much to move everything. So they passed. And it's still offices. And there it is, another Roland Wilson building. There's its sister, the Colorado Club, just across Colorado Boulevard. And look, we can see Roland in the background. There he is. And that's the experience of Lee's today. I actually pulled this slide from their website. This is one of the corner executive offices, and there's one of those funky little fireplaces. I wish I had a better version of this photo. This is Vince Rieger. Vince Rieger was Mr. Colorado Boulevard, and he did a lot of development in the 50s and 60s. And as a matter of fact, he developed the very first condo building in the state in 1959. Roland Wilson also, Vince Rieger also was the developer of the Welsh Arms. So this was his office. And I've actually been in this office, and it looks exactly like that.
So it's not the block wallpaper on there? So that shows
Yeah.
the block.
The carpet's been replaced. So, Rocky Mountain News, Sunday, 1973. This is that office building. It's a dream location. High-rise apartment buildings. Oh no, this isn't this. Anyways, what is all this stuff? This is Jimmy. Jimmy starts changing this thing from all of this club-like atmosphere. Suburban apartments are beginning to be built, right? They're all having amenities. What differentiates them? She starts bringing in antiques. And then the buildings start, their theme goes away from swanky and sophisticated to kind of this different thing. Rococo detailing has been included on every door entry in the Manchester New Southeast apartment house. So that's your door knocker. Not nice. Real antique leaded stained glass windows sets the mood for the apartment's party room. Where was this taken from? I don't know.
Well, maybe, they went from that medieval and they're like, you know what we can do?
Yeah. But it
We
was,
can look further with.
you've got this very elegant, quiet box and all this kind of crazy fun stuff in it. It certainly worked for them. The 11-story executive club building completely leased, and we can see here's a portion of the entrance lobby to executive club. The floor is high quality tile and antiques in excellent condition, in case you thought they were broken up. They're everywhere. With 3 high-speed elevators, feature interiors of wormy chestnut wood and the rest of the decor blends. These offices had amenities like an apartment building. They're really the first, at least for Colorado, lifestyle office suites. You've got a swimming pool, you've got a fitness room, there's a cafeteria. It's really a really interesting concept. From a forward-thinking person that saw that this could be adapted to something else, apartments. Look at the swimming pool.
I mean, I'd like to work and then go sit in the sauna for an hour.
Absolutely. Tenants linger in plush Colorado club offices. This lobby looks exactly like this. It still even has that couch and that lamp. It does, doesn't it? That clock is still right there as well. Because they still own these things. The companies. So these buildings didn't ever really lose control of them. So much of the interior decor is still in these
Do you
places.
think it'll change now that she's not around?
I would say they're probably liquidating the rest of their stuff. Probably not still so long. The tenants linger before they go home each day. That's how Vince Rieger, owner and developer, 4.5 million Colorado, describes reaction to the newly opened one-story structure. Mrs. Virginia Wilson, wife of buildings architect Roland, handled the interior decor. An attractive and distinctive atmosphere with home-like features. Exciting office building. Mrs. Virginia Wilson, wife of the architect. Rieger, who with architect Wilson is the principal stockholder of the new building. And look at all this stuff. I had a meeting in this room once. Those are all stockholder certificates from the Old West. All of those things on the wall. So they were themed around Colorado history. And Roland and Jenny love Colorado history. And they jeep to ghost towns on weekends. Things like this, right? Look at this old back bar out of some saloon or something. And this is in the 60s and 70s. So they probably got this for a song. It's an interesting concept. The Tabor Apartments. Look at this. It's a Victorian little thing she put in here. And look, that's a picture of Baby Doe Tabor.
He named it after the Tabor.
Yeah.
Right? Tabor, Denver's newest luxury apartment.
Baby doll room.
The Baby Doe room. Oh boy, the Captain Cook. Here's another one. Back into the apartments. Her theming, right? It was about this theming that gave personality and, a fun identity to these. I don't know what the Captain Cook looked like inside, but I can imagine what it probably did. This theming also lent itself to motels.
How did I never realize that was a Roland Wilson, but it makes perfect sense now. It's one of my favorites, but it makes.
My wife's cousin owned that.
Did she?
Oh.
Oh.
His father built it, actually. His father was the client of Roland Wilson.
Yeah.
I
Of
love
course,
it.
today this is the Metlo. Okay? But that's a Roland. You know what? I eat my words right there. There's a roof down.
One time.
One time.
Probably
You
because
still
it's
book
a
it for
hotel.
events.
I don't know. Do we? Who knows? Maybe Roland, maybe Jimmy designed the sign.
You're only 5 stories up, so it's not going to freak you out as much.
Yeah.
The wind doesn't whip as hard.
It's pretty neat. The Four Winds. Does anybody remember this? This was on. Actually, I have it right here. Because I did a condo conversion on this
Oh,
at
this is-
Colfax and Brain.
Oh.
The Four Winds had, when we tore it apart, we actually saw some of it on the ground level. There was the ship's tavern, or the ship's room was the motel restaurant. It was a Colfax and Brain, this is what we ended up doing. I wasn't able to keep those balcony rails because we couldn't get an engineer to sign off on it. It was not. We wanted to keep it. We wanted to really just restore the building. But ultimately, we wanted to.
So an engineer just wouldn't sign off that they were structurally stable enough to have someone who like
No one would do it.
really lean against.
So we ended up blowing a major part of the budget, doing an entire screen system and rail system for this project. But Roland, doing motels, there it is in real life, the Four Winds, massive sign. The sign got truncated to right here. That sign was left, and it was being utilized as senior living for at least several years. The Royal
What?
Yes, sir.
I didn't know
Oh
that.
my god.
No way.
Recognize that elevator from
Oh,
1960?
shoot.
It's the same one.
And it makes sense with her theming. If you did the Royal Palace, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
The big crown.
Crazy
The sign is still there.
No, it just got removed.
It was clinging to life barely.
Well, and it's a little controversial that it got removed apparently.
Yes.
Because it wasn't 100% condoned for it to be removed by the person who removed it. So.
Can you imagine having this lawn and look at these lawn
Rooftop on
chairs
this
and
one,
stuff
too.
right there on Colorado Boulevard?
I
It
would
wouldn't
kill
look
for
like that
those.
anymore.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Was there more?
And there's rooftop on this one too, look.
No.
Graffiti now.
Look, that's the white line right there. That's the street.
Yep, that's right.
Do you see the rooftop on this one right there?
Yeah, stairs going
That's a
up.
parking lot of the Conoco station next to it.
And this time it looks like it has glass in it. But that other picture did not look like it has, they don't look like they have glass otherwise. And of course, this elevator's gone.
For someone paying money for a motel, they're gonna give them the glass. They're like, yeah, you're in an apartment, you don't get,
Yeah.
you could.
But how neat would that be? I can
It's going to
imagine.
be renovated.
Is it?
Somebody's bought it.
I thought they were.
I think it's
demolished
being
it.
evaded and
Maybe
As John said, we can't afford to tear it down.
I'd be surprised if you could.
developer bought it. And
I've read a lot of
their plan
articles.
is to tear it down and they're evading it right
Oh, really?
I've read a lot of articles, but maybe they got into it and they're like, oh, maybe we can save it. I don't know. But at least what I read, it said, bye-bye.
And we'll recognize this one, the Royal Voice. Look, it's a big. Big outstanding stick. We can imagine what the little restaurant must have been like in the office. And probably the themes of the pictures on the walls.
now. And that exterior elevator again.
There it is. It's the same kit of parts. This whole thing is a massive kit of
Is
parts.
this one on Colfax too?
Yeah.
Yeah, is that the Days Inn on Colfax?
Yeah, that's it.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Colfax Ogden?
Crazy.
Yeah, it is.
I always wondered about the corner of that structure now, the elevator and all those things.
Oh.
What was going
You
on?
know what's ironic is both that one and the other one had fires in them.
Did this one.
That one had a fire. I walked out of a show at the Ogden, and it was on fire. I was like, oh, that's
Yeah.
happening.
Look how nice this street looks. Yeah. Different time. Now, what we talked about is what I know. There's a lot more. He did a lot more stuff. This is just one newspaper. Alan, tell me if this was ever built. Planned for completion in December is this new office building
No,
that was never built.
World Savings, I believe George Hoover did a building for World Savings in the same block as the King Soopers next to me. And that's now a mattress company.
And it didn't look like that.
Didn't, wasn't that big. This was a knockoff of the building that I did for World Savings at 16th and Tremont. I remember this drawing because I wrote it was a knockoff.
So that's the guy, right, that we've been talking about. I think there's poetics in all of this work. I think he made a killing doing it. So why did he stop? Times certainly changed, and we do know that. His work really fell out of favor.
Eichmann Memorial.
The Adolf Eichmann Memorial. Yeah, it's like, in high density living is given to Roland Wilson for his consistent achievements in high rise apartment design. Mr. Wilson has wended his way through the building and zoning codes, requirements of lending institutions, and his own success without once providing a better way to live for anyone, except possibly himself. And they gave him the Food Awards.
Yep.
Who's responsible for that piece of journalism there?
Straight creek.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't flip.
This is what people did before the internet.
Actually, if you wanna read old newspapers, like I do too much, and I know Adam
Yeah,
does as
that's
well,
what-
There's
you see a
of
lot of like the little like so-and-so visited
this is-
so-and-so, and they went on a
That's
50-year.
just dumb. What does Adolf Eichmann have, I mean, besides pulling out the name of a villain, I mean, that's.
Yeah,
I mean,
you
it's
keep
just-
giving him a villain name. It's
Yeah, I know,
like,
it's just like, I
really?
mean, Eichmann was just minding his own business down there in Brazil. That's the way it's run up.
I just wish they could look, 60 years into the future and see the garbage that's being built today.
exactly.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, well.
it's.
Not to insult your work.
We try the best that we can, but we can only do what we can do. And that's part of this story. Roland stops working entirely. There's no more buildings, right? There's no more buildings in the late 70s. Why?
Building.
Building code is one thing that definitely gets in his way. You can't build these there's an energy code. You can't build these big buildings with these massive amounts of glass, all precast exteriors,
No insulation,
no insulation anywhere.
no double glazing.
None of it worked anymore. Accessibility would come along. All of this stuff, it stopped.
Plus Denver had huge economic problems.
That is
Well, I
why.
also think
But he
concrete,
could have went somewhere else and
True.
continued to work.
didn't concrete get way more expensive too, right around that time?
No,
Well, yeah. I mean, it didn't get expensive, but it wasn't like it was like, when it became very, very
I'm
expensive.
making precast tees.
Absolutely.
Because I know, so just a side note, the Polynesian Hotel in Disney World was done in the mid
So,
70s. And they had gotten a steel company to agree to make basically prefab boxes that they stacked on top. And that was when steel was cheaper, and then halfway through the project, steel bolted through the roof, and they were like, oh my God, what did we do? So I think people were also starting right around that time to experiment with different materials, and including Disney and prefab. And so that was the whole interesting story itself. So I think there was probably.
I think there was a lot of things, you've now got this work is even just what the work was. Modern architecture was being had. Right? This was a guy that was very disciplined, let's say, and I've got to make up the story, and I'm going to make it up because I don't have any proof to say this. Believed in something based on some work. I've got to imagine that I wouldn't say that I'm going to start doing bad work. Also, he retained ownership on all of these projects. He doesn't need to do any work. As a matter of fact, he probably didn't need to do any work since like the mid-60s.
Yes.
So why is he doing it? I think it's really to provide something more. I think there's an idea or an attitude behind this. I don't think this work is bland. I think it's fulfilling something bigger, right?
It's not that
It's
guy.
not this guy. This is Nice, right?
Yeah.
This is early Nice. This is modern architecture, these big ideas that all the modernists are exploring. I'm talking about Corbusier, right? The towers in these gardens. The folks here weren't doing work at that scale. Roland is getting thousands of units built. He's housing so many people. There's some poetics to
He
that.
was way outperforming what people are doing today.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
And we know that the experience of the tenants was good. It was really good. They were getting something that they couldn't get anyplace else. And it was an experience like this, which really wasn't all that dissimilar from something like this. In a normal person's package.
So just squint a little bit. Just squint a little bit.
Put a martini in your hand, put on some music.
But the thing is that he's providing something, an experience that was for people that couldn't afford it. big modern architecture for people that didn't expect it, didn't know it, didn't appreciate it.
And to the point you made earlier, he is turning his back on what used to be an apartment building in Denver, which was a big
With a
block.
big red box.
Yes.
And
These are also beautiful. It just makes me think, like, how did we go from this amazing living and ratio of human to square footage living and open space and windows to like a Juliet balcony lifestyle?
Cost.
that's an entire program I can give. Another day.
It's blowing my mind. These are so amazing.
This is, you look at this building, and I'm going to make some more unfair comparisons because I didn't know how to so humor me. It's a very quiet building. It's a very quiet system. All of this. It gives you a place for you to live your life. It doesn't force any bullshit on you. It's a place to live. The criticism of quality product design, right? Cleanliness. It's the kind of stuff that just goes away. You don't even notice it. I mean, this is a radio from 1957. Peter rings. This is the kind of stuff that just molds into the background. And so do his buildings.
Well,
a lot of architects, developer-driven stuff is oftentimes referred to as product design. It's product. What's your product? You're creating something that's essentially like a massive piece of furniture. It's the best for the most for the least. It might have site-specific details, but it really is similar to product design. It's different than regular architecture. And that's what he was doing here. And maybe that's why it was so easy to hate it. I mean, Reed was on a talk that I gave that focused primarily on Roland Wilson.
I love to talk.
And these people turned on me and attacked me.
I didn't know you were on that.
Yeah, not me. I just
So,
sat there and started.
Developer-driven modernism, the architecture. That's probably the first time that anybody has actually looked at this work.
Have you done this presentation or some close variation on it? Yeah.
Never.
Well, you're pretty damn good then.
You can't say that you haven't been walking Cheeseman with
Do
you.
this homework.
We talked about all of
Well, yeah, I mean,
this.
we did a pretty good study on this a number of times because there seems to be he's definitely the biggest. He produces the most amount of work out of any of the people that are here in Colorado doing. Ramsey and Reeves is another architecture firm that did a lot, nothing as much as this. They were early. They sort of bow out by the 60s. The mid-60s, they're not doing more of these towers.
Well, the mid-60s, though, that's when the two Lafayette towers that we think are.
Yeah.
That was 64 and 65 on those two.
Yeah, you're right.
I would say probably right around 1970. I feel like
There's definitely nothing else. They're not doing anything. And the apartment game started to change because all of a sudden, folks started to do the suburban developments and things were wood frame. And this whole high-rise thing, we didn't need to do it. We had the land. So it went from the Roland Wilson, Ramsey and Reeves, and those other ones that built into concrete buildings. All of a sudden now, it's, it starts to turn into Mike KEPHART. As all of these modern guys step out, it's the Mike KEPHARTs and pretty much Mike KEPHART in the 70s that starts doing all of the garden apartments. Because the garden apartment replaces all this stuff. And we see it all around these buildings,
I feel like if you look at trends in design, right, design we always have waves, like, the modern wave, we have the more traditionalist wave. So besides like building codes and materials and all that kind of things, it's kind of like natural to we'll go back to the style again. Just like the modernism.
I don't feel like the new construction houses in the suburbs have changed much.
I don't think I think they look modern, but I don't think they are modern.
No,
The
there's
steel
nothing
cliff
about
maze
it.
quote.
It's when you think of affecting people's lives, that's why I got and stayed in Florence. That is the only reason why. I wish I could have worked when we were doing work like this. I absolutely would. I absolutely would. But we don't. We can't. And that was just a moment in time where, all these gears came together.
I will say that there's like a couple spots in the Botanic Gardens that you can get some real good photos, and I have some of them from, like, my friends got married at the desk, and I have some perfect photos of those buildings.
I think your presentation started at a beautiful place though, because I really do feel like Roland walked away from his education with Sternberg
I absolutely did.
completely inspired.
Yeah,
And he did it.
yeah.
Gene Sternberg even had a condo in town that was designed by Roland.
Oh,
I didn't know.
Wait. Oh. Are we having open discussion?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. May I ask a question? I'm sorry, I don't want to be rude. There's no camera on, so I can't see what's happening.
You can't see us?
It's on the.
Still have Roland, so just put
Oh.
her around.
Since I did rudely interrupt, hopefully not. Thank you for being so kind.
No, you're good. Here, hang on. What am I doing? Can you see us now?
No.
Stop share.
Stop sharing.
There you go.
How about that?
The table with Docomomo on it.
Okay.
Hey, can you switch cameras?
Okay. So first thing, I really appreciate this presentation. It's my first one with this organization, and it was excellent. I especially enjoy learning about things that are not necessarily exceptional. I mean, he's a great architect, but his buildings are everywhere, so they're not exceptional by definition.
Can you speak up a little bit?
I said I really enjoyed the presentation,
Thank you.
and it's my first one, so thank you. I like
Great.
the focus on someone who is like their buildings are not necessarily super artistic, but they're everywhere and they're like part of our daily life. And so learning more about them is like kind of cool.
Yep.
Especially since I think I lived in one. But you said that he trained under Sternberg. Did I understand that correctly?
Yes.
Because when I moved to the Metropolitan, I have a 2-bedroom unit with those hexagonal windows. And the first thing my husband and I noticed is that it's almost the exact same floor plan as Safari Club, just shrunk.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm sure it is. I'm positive it is. I mean, the floor plans that he developed in 1958, he used in 1970. They never changed. I mean, they got better. They got progressively better. There is differences, and it came from, my God, an apartment guy that owns all of these buildings is living in them.
But I think he's also drawing a straight line between the apartments that Sternberg had designed.
Oh,
Yeah.
the Desi is really interesting because your kitchens are, where you would think the living room would be the corner, right? It's not. It's the kitchen.
It's the kitchen with this cool window. It was just very easy to move because all the furniture went to the same spot.
Yep. Yeah, the Sternberg Desi is really neat because it doesn't do it anymore. So those that aren't familiar, Desi, whatever the acronym stands for, it was for retired school teachers, and Sternberg did as much of an architect as he was just as much a planner, And it was all these ideas about community and how to build community, and he wrote books and all kinds of things. And a big passion for this guy was senior housing and how you handle senior housing. And he wrote some of the earliest books on in taking senior housing very seriously. And it wasn't this idea that seniors should be living in this pastoral environment out in no place. They should be in among all kinds of different age groups, young people, people their own age, the kids, children. And that was, DESE was really the case study in that. It was for retired school teachers. And all of these teachers knew each other. If you look at DESE, it has these massive hallways. When you get off the elevator, there's like a 12-foot wide hallway. On each floor, it was the community green. Each floor had a community green. It was a community room that functioned as the hallway that all the rooms came off. I looked at doing a renovation of your building when the current owner bought it. And he didn't get it at all. And we didn't end up doing it. And I didn't do the funny colors that are all over it. I don't think Sternberg would have appreciated the decoration that he had to that building.
But you know what he would appreciate? One thing, I like that some of my neighbors are 80 years old. I don't like that some of them are 20 years old, but whatever. I'm just getting old myself now. But
well,
is that hallway is still a place where I have never more in community with the neighbors on my floor in this building, because I see my neighbors in that big hallway space all the time, and we have conversations. And 3 of them came to my wedding, and it's just like, I think you would appreciate that it still works that way today.
Good. The balcony dividers between it has a full string of balconies. Actually, we have the
Yeah, I was gonna say.
It has a full. This isn't the way the building was built. This patterning happened only on the 2 sides, and then the front and the back were completely open balconies. So that's an earlier version of the model. But the balcony dividers were held 16 inches back from the rail at the street. So you could walk around the balcony. You could get to know your neighbor. You could walk from unit to unit between all the balcony dividers and go from end to end. They've had to close them off now. There was also a little store on the ground level that if these, they were all old ladies. This was built in 1964. Most of those school teachers were women. That's why the kitchens are in the corner, because their social time and their fun time was in that kitchen. These were people that started working in like 1900. They started teaching in one-room schoolhouses and then end up in a high-rise modernist building. That's wild to me. On the ground level, they had a little store that people could make. The residents would make things and interact with young people in town. It's a beautiful model for community. And I'm sure that, these are ideas that Roland was well aware of. Others.
So for those of
Other
us
thoughts?
who aren't architects or structural engineers, what are the benefits of the precast double T?
The span.
They go up fast.
Yep. Quick. The span, that's why we use them to build parking structures. Is because we can span great distances. And
Make Cinderella City parking garage.
absolutely. There is some issues with deflection,
Yes,
especially today.
especially in the garage.
So
What is the maximum length? Because in the detail you showed, it was like,
No, there is no maximum length. maximum length depends upon the depth, extent of the T.
And the longest truck you can possibly get.
It's really the, how can you transport?
And then what do you think about the fact that the underside of the T is left exposed in the unit?
I don't know.
I've heard some people who live in those units who don't love
I can tell you from showing people some of the condos that have been converted, that it's a very mixed reaction to how they feel about the T in the unit.
Yeah.
I bet it's the difference between those that tend towards liking modern architecture and those that don't.
Yeah.
It appears
I
as
think
though
Not completely though, actually.
I think it's if you want to add lights or, I mean, I haven't been in one where they're trying to build new walls, but the light fixture, if you want to add a fixture for sure, it gets a little ugly.
The fixtures nowadays are all wall mounted, most of them are wall mounted. Like there'll be even like for the pendant over the dining table will be a slab.
I feel like the further he got into his career, the more he tended to have the double T finish on the interiors. Like sort of later, most of the later buildings on Cheeseman Park, and then down there in that last slide you showed over in Aurora. Those are all finished all the way down.
It's in Denver.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It's a long
He kind
way
of
from
retreated a little
Aurora.
bit. Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. He says that part of the whole idea was that he saw an issue with apartment design, the fact that the architect didn't have total control. Despite the fact that the architect probably knew how the building should go together, what should be on the site, things like that. And that a big part of it, at least in the beginning, was maintaining control of these sites. So I could make up the story that maybe he lost some control, or maybe his attitude changed. I don't know. I mean, the one on Cheeseman, the big white one, that one has an array of can lights in it, and they're old. So I think it was probably old. So yeah, it has a finish.
One also wonders if, when he was working as architect and not investor, if he actually had a hard time selling the precast double T to
But he did.
developers.
It was brand new. I mean, it was a brand new structural system.
He was not the only one using it.
No.
Otherwise, even with the volume we did, precast of Colorado would make it. They're working on the precast.
But I can see how developers would been aghast at the idea of this is going to be exposed on the inside of my units.
We've never seen that. We don't. Yeah, people aren't going to like that.
Well, I mean, just if we want to talk about something funny, the pre-done Polynesian rooms, they had recessed lighting built in, and people went in the rooms and they're like, I have no lamps. Why aren't there lamps in these hotel rooms? So they had this whole system built in where they didn't have to add a single light to these rooms. They had like these super modern prefab beds in them, like everything was prefab in these rooms. And people threw such a fit when they came in that they ended up sealing up some of the ceiling fixtures and putting lamps in the room because people couldn't handle it. So like I think that's a perfect example of maybe why the T's got covered and then why they started. I mean, you think about it though, the can lighting would have been like, oh my God, if it was too much in the Polynesian, imagine what it would be like in one of those early buildings. So you think about that probably blew people's mind too in that building.
It is also interesting to note that the Colorado Club had drop ceilings with a plenum.
Would have needed it for the additional light.
And just the flexibility.
Yep. Absolutely. It totally do that. It's an interesting study. It's easy to overlook. All right. Well, is there any other announcements? And we can adjourn. Unless we want to chat more about role. We could always stay another gap. Can I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Do you think that the correlation between the artist and the architect is a bit much? They're not brainchilds.
Yeah, the things we do for love, right?
I mean, some of her theming
Yeah,
is pretty.
Compare him
yeah, those door doctors are too funny, though.
It's
Yeah.
not.
That building is.
Oh, we got chat?
All right, yeah.
Yes, Tabitha says this was so exciting. Thank you.
Oh, good. Wonderful. I was surprised when we dug into that one building that this meant the ITC rating.
So we talked about this at my place, but I have that construction, and I was actually looking in a wall cavity today, and noticed that my neighbor's plumbing pipe under her kitchen sink, it conflicts with one of those. It would have conflicted with one of those metal rod zigzags in the beam, so they just cut it and like turned it, and the pipe runs through. So I was like, that is kind of genius in terms of a structural system.
That had to go together so quickly
Yeah.
and by totally untrained people to
Yeah.
put that together with the utility.
I mean,
Did you say Ramsey reduced it up too? That's in the one.
That's in the Welsher, that's in most of the houses.
Well, that's it, yeah. So who, do we know who actually,
I don't know.
Alan, do we know who created that system?
What?
Do we know who created that system for the walls?
That structure is not 2 inches thick.
No, it's not even that.
No, because you've got 2 half-inch pieces of drywall, that's an inch.
Yeah.
So that means your stud is 1 inch.
It might be like 1 1/4.
So the stud is really that.
It's really that thing. The boxes are totally, they're real flat little electrical boxes too, that would have had to have been part of the system. Because the boxes are really
Real.
Now you
I
gotta
was
want to go
really
pick it up.
surprised when we saw it, and I didn't think that it was gonna.
Because that's not the scale. We know that. But
You know,
I started thinking,
Yeah.
you're doing a wall on that inch.
An inch and a half.
Yeah, so I live in,
It makes you a little bit.